Hi! Do you set goals for the year on January 1st? How are they going? Are you following through? And in general, have you had big ambitions and set goals that you struggle to accomplish? In this video, I will share my experience on how to set goals that are both achievable and how I maintain my focus on them week by week. One of my biggest learnings lately was to set goals in terms of 12 weeks. I originally saw the concept on Ali Abdaal's channel, and I will share what I have learned on my experience applying them. The 12-week goal idea comes from the book The 12-Week Year from Brian Moran and Michael Lennington, which Ali mentioned on his videos. Besides the time frame, it's very important to put attention on the kind of goals you set. Also, how you keep them in your mind as you work through the week, and how that weekly work will accumulate and compound by the end of those 12 weeks. My name is Felipe and I am an iOS developer based in Norway. In this channel, I talk a lot about Apple development content, but also some productivity and gear. Subscribe if that's interesting for you. Let's dig in. 12-week goals. The main idea is that we set goals on the terms of 12 weeks instead of 12 months. Why 12 weeks? It's a short enough period to keep the goals in your mind, but long enough to achieve significant progress. I like to visualize my work at a week level. Then having this time frame of 12 weeks helps me to have 12 of those units of work. First example, to get monetized in YouTube or get 1,000 subscribers. This really is an outcome goal, as I cannot control that I get monetized. But what I can control is to actually post videos. How many videos can I post on 12 weeks, right? I can say that my goal would be to publish 4 videos. I don't have control of people subscribing to me, but I do have control of the videos that I make. But it's also an input goal that is intended to help me achieve that outcome goal. That's important, to make your input goals achievable. This goal of publishing 4 videos, what does it mean day to day? Well, I can make a habit out of it and set for myself, let's say, to work 30 minutes each day on my YouTube videos. The idea then is to set a habit that helps you to achieve that input goal of publishing the 4 videos. Then I have a clear path on achieving my goal. I work with my habit, then I try to achieve the input goal, then ideally I will achieve the outcome goal. Example number 2, losing weight. That goal, you can make it a bit more specific and be like, okay, how much weight? Let's say lose 10 kilos in the period of 12 weeks. This really is still an outcome goal because I cannot control how much weight do I lose, but what I actually control is the actions that help me to lose that weight. So basically my input would be like to eat healthy or exercise. Obviously the input goal of eating healthy can be many things, but you find something that works for you and something that ideally you can measure. In my case, what I do is not to eat candy 4 out of 7 days a week at least. And when it comes to exercise, you can say, for example, do 8 workouts in 12 weeks. That's achievable. Then for that input goal, my habit would be workout once a week. That would make, if I follow every week, to have 12 workouts at the end of the period. And that would be more than enough to fulfill my goal. Now that habit would make it that if I actually follow through each week, that would end up with 12 weeks of 12 workouts instead of just 8. But setting this input goal a bit lower, I accounting for failure. For example, even if some week I fail, I can still try to fulfill that goal anyway. And makes me that it's easy to keep the momentum of working out, and also it's easy to get started. At the end of the 12 weeks, I might overachieve, but at least I did 8 workouts during that time. The idea is to make my habits and input goals easy to get started. Third example, give a conference talk. It's also an outcome goal. In this case, I cannot control that people accept my proposals in a conference. In this case, for example, a habit like work 30 minutes on this conference would not work. Because to get accepted into a conference, I need to search for conferences with the call for papers open, gather talk ideas, write proposals, submit those proposals. And if I get accepted to that conference, then I need to prepare the talk, rehearse it, and so on and so on. For this outcome goal, my input could be to submit 3 conference talk proposals. Then you might not really need to have a continuous habit like working on my YouTube videos, but at least I should also schedule time to work on these different steps. Summarizing setting goals. So then basically for your outcome goals, you need to define input goals. Make sure that your input goals are realistic, have room for error, and are trackable if possible. Then you can define habits that are particularly designed to achieve your input goals, making it easy for you to start. Then every 3 months I plan my next quarter goals. Defining good goals is the first part of the process. The next step is to use those goals and habits to give you focus. My weekly process. The idea is to maintain focus by having your goals always visible. It's not about defining goals and then come back 12 weeks later just to see that you failed what you planned. The idea is to keep them in mind each week. This basically will facilitate me taking action on those goals since I have them in my head, and I can also track when I achieve something on a document where my goals are visible. One thing I do is that to use a Notion document on each week where I journal basically everything that happens during the day, because really sometimes I cannot really remember what I had for lunch yesterday. So at the end of the week I do a retrospective where really I force to reevaluate on how things are going, and then basically for each of my goals I can see if I have my expectations don't really match the reality and how I can fix that. So sometimes I do small tweaks to make the goals happen. For example, in the last time that I defined my goals, it was just before I had my second kid, so I didn't know how the new kid will affect my schedule. Since I have less capacity, I need to lower my expectations. For example, if you didn't work out, what was the problem? You can say instead of work out once a week, you can actually schedule the time that you're gonna work out. So really in that retrospective, you can ask about your goals. How did it go? How you can make them work? And you can adapt if needed and maybe schedule time for them. This system has helped me to get real progress on my goals. It also helps me keep my focus on them. It has been one of the biggest factors in my consistency for this YouTube channel, which is continually growing. The system itself doesn't matter much, but the principles behind it do. At the end of the day, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. Think what you can build with a combination of planning and focus that will help you to be consistent over time. If you enjoyed this video, you can dig deeper on the compounding effects of small efforts in my macro habits for developers video. Until the next one.